Yeah, no kidding. Okay, sounds good. Do you want to get out at like 57:50 then, or do we get out at 59:50? Okay, so just approach it like a 4 segment hour basically for the transition to CBS. Okay. Hey, since this is going long enough, do you want to just take the break going into the 5 o'clock hour now? Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay. Okay.
Google Play, and NewsRadioKMAN.com.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now it's 58 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast right now, 58 degrees, partly cloudy skies, little to no wind tomorrow. Wind advisory in effect from 10 to 1. Also a chance of rain into the evening. That chance at 90% actually overnight, mainly before 1 a.m. Overnight winds getting as high as 35 miles per hour. We're getting set for Wildcat Insider on News Radio KMAN.
The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. This is Wildcat Insider with the Mercury sports editor Tim Everson and KMAN sports director Mitch Fortner.
You know what? I never thought I would be ever saying this sentence that I'm about to say. Ayoka Lee's career at K-State is over. I know, crazy, right? She'd been with the team since 2018. She's 24 years old, but she exhausted her entire run through K-State, her eligibility. And the Cats in their run in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. Welcome to what possibly Morgan Wallen would call God's country, Spokane, Washington. Mitch Fortner alongside Tim Everson, who's back in Manhattan. Cole Dutchendorf is on the board in Manhattan as well. And I'm in my five-star hotel. Well, it's a Motel 6, but it's one of the five-star Motel 6s here on the west side of Spokane, Washington. I'm here for one final day. I'm flying back tomorrow, and then I'll be back live in the studio on Wednesday. 67-61, the final score from Spokane Arena, where K-State falls in the Sweet 16 to the 1 seed in Region 4. And that is the USC Trojans, even without Juju Watkins, still loaded with either going to be drafted in the WNBA this coming summer or will be a future WNBA draft pick. There's a lot of great freshmen on that team. K-State still falls by 6 points. And coming up in today's show, we're going to hear from Ayoka Lee, Serena Sundell. We're going to hear from Jalen Glenn. We're going to hear from Jeff Mitty here on our first segment as we kind of recap the loss. And, this is a legendary senior class that exits. I think it's one of the best senior classes in not just K-State women's basketball history, K-State sports history, with future WNBA players. No doubt about it, Serena Sundell is one of those. If Ayoka Lee decides to go play professional basketball, I think she's going to be a draft pick. Even Jalen Glenn and Tamira Poindexter, I think they got great opportunities to play some pro basketball. If it's not in the United States, certainly overseas somewhere. They have some pretty awesome opportunities ahead of them. Now, Jeff Mittie has already added a new piece to his 2025 class just hours after the season coming to an end. We're going to hear from Wyatt Thompson coming up at 5:10. It's going to really be our baseball segment with Wyatt because he called the 3 games against Texas Tech, which K-State swept those games. They're still in first place in the Big 12 with a record of 8-1, a start in conference play that we've basically never seen before. And we have our big thank you to the K-State women's basketball seniors also coming up in hour number 2, along with Tim Everson's K-State spring football storylines. But Tim, we start off with K-State's loss in the Sweet 16. You know, let's lead off with this. I on Friday had my suspicions, but when it comes to trying to predict how the game would go, what the final score would be, who would be the winner, I was really torn. Like, leading up to the Mitch Palm projection, I didn't honestly know which way to go. I, on the fly, just went with a gut prediction. I said K-State wins by 2. I thought it was going to be a close game. Really, my suspicions came true. I was worried about USC's defense. They play a pretty in-your-face defense. It was offensively where I felt like they would struggle to replace Juju Watkins. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts first here, Tim. Just your thoughts on K-State's performance. They get to the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, you know, it was a lot of second-half issues, in my opinion, that just kind of led to K-State not being able to get the win on Saturday.
Yeah, you know, when you're facing a team as good as USC and that has as many weapons as USC has, you really can't afford to kind of slip for a couple minutes. And unfortunately for K-State, that's kind of what happened in that third quarter. Turnovers popped up. Some fouls popped up, and USC just was able to kind of take a lead that was, you know, more substantial than just a couple possessions, and then just had every answer for K-State down the stretch. It sucks. It definitely sucks because you feel like, especially with Juju out, that was the opportunity to kind of seize to make the second Elite Eight in school history. But you know, it's not. You know, we can dwell on that, and I know we're going to talk about the game more, but it really, at the end of the day, now is just about those seniors and about kind of what they've meant, kind of bringing K-State women's basketball into this new era, this new age, and based on, you know, recruiting, obviously we're going to talk about that later, and based on who is coming back for next year as far as today is concerned, you know, the future's bright. The future's bright, and it's because of kind of the culture that those guys kind of put forward. But, you know, there's just opportunities were there, and they just didn't have enough to kind of push it over the edge.
Yeah, another segment, right? K-State men's and women's basketball. Nobody in the transfer portal yet officially, as far as I know, unless I missed something. But that is a little bit of a surprise, certainly on the men's side. But, yeah, we'll get to recruiting here in just a little bit. Here was Jeff Mittie after the game at the podium at the press conference about just things that just obviously didn't go right for K-State.
We didn't play with the physicality well enough. The third quarter hurt us because we either made shots, we shoot over 60%, but we only get 8 shots. Turnovers hurt us. They get 15 shots in the quarter. That's a big number to overcome. I thought the physicality, we had trouble with getting movement in our offense. And, you know, we talked about we needed to win the middle of the floor. And in that stretch, I thought they won the middle of the floor. And so from that standpoint, that's the part that I think from a basketball perspective, they won the middle of the floor more than we did tonight. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what resonated the most with me was the turnover, 16 of the game. To me, that was really the difference in the game. USC won points off turnovers by 7. And USC only had 9 in the game. They did a good job of taking care of the basketball for the most part. I think K-State, where they got themselves in a little bit too much trouble, was just kind of the soft passes and a really tight defense from USC, especially there. There were a couple of turnovers there late. Not to hark on just one player, but Gisela Sanchez had a really, really bad run of coughing up the basketball. K-State, though,
in that stretch was still able to take the lead. They led at halftime, and it was kind of a trend there in Spokane where the losing team was the one that was winning at halftime. That happened in the UConn game against Oklahoma, and then Paige Beckers goes off for 40 points, which, by the way, was an honor to see her in person. Let's hear one more thing here from Jeff Mitty just about the USC. It was their freshmen who had to step up, and they certainly did so.
Credit to their freshmen because this is a big stage and they're the number one recruiting class in the country for a reason, and they stepped up. Smith got them off to a great start. 23 Howell was fantastic, so it says a lot about the depth of their roster.
Very deep. They're a very good team. They needed players to step up, and they did so. Again, that's a team just full of WNBA talent, and I tried to make it clear last week when Juju Watkins went down, that was by no means a reason to say that, now K-State is an easy now going to be moving on to the Elite Eight and probably going to play UConn because one player was out. That's just not the case. Juju is such an impressive player, and who knows, what happens with her in the game? Does it get a lot worse? Possibly so. USC is just loaded with talent. I thought it was just a leveling of the playing field. K-State was just not able to pull it out. And I guess, in no way am I, disappointed in this team. Again, there's probably some what-ifs, like what if, again, Aoka Lee doesn't go down. K-State probably has a much better seed. They probably, I think there's no doubt about it. They're at least a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. You're not going to face a 1 seed, which – again, in women's college basketball, the 1 seed and also the 2, which is UConn, one of the 2 seeds, they're just at another level than everybody else. It's chalk always in women's basketball when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and this is no exception. Can TCU beat Texas tonight? Possibly, but Texas is a better team. And I expect UConn to beat USC because they don't have Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers is Paige Beckers. UConn is a phenomenal team. But K-State, if they got a better seed, there's a much better chance, greater odds of getting to the Elite Eight. I'm just bummed out. This senior class is done now. I didn't want to see it end. I got a little emotional there at the arena because a great thing came to an end. I'm bummed out because K-State kind of ran into, it's not a curse, but just kind of repeated history of not making like the big deep run like to the Elite Eight that only one other team in program history has done. But a Sweet 16 is still a pretty major accomplishment, in this sport. But again, Tim, you just didn't seem like it was ever you didn't want it to end. The seasons go by way too quick. You had a very special team, and now K-State's in a position now where, of course, it's going to be a much different-looking team next year, and this is a legendary group that's now moving on.
Yeah, it's tough to accept, and I think even now I have a hard time of picturing a K-State roster that doesn't have Aoka Lee, doesn't have Serena Sundell, that doesn't have Jalen Glenn on it. It's just been so consistent, and save for injuries for Yoki, that consistency has kind of built things to where they are now, and it's going to be weird next year. Hopefully they don't take too long to get Serena and Aoka back to get those jerseys thrown up in the rafters. But they'll be missed. They're 2 all-time greats, and then Jalen is like the ultimate teammate, and it's just very, very special senior class.
Maybe a little while if these two decide to play professional basketball. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Just kind of give you a forecast for Lee and Sundell on if they could be drafted, where could they go. That could be something we get to in hour 2. One thing I do want to point out about the tournament is I thought Serena Sundell had a phenomenal NCAA tournament. 3 games averaging 20 points, 10 assists, a couple of steals, 4 rebounds. She had a 5-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, which she broke the program record for the best single-season assist-to-turnover ratio in history. Of course, she became the all-time leader in assists in K-State history during the Kentucky game. She didn't score anything less than 18 points in a game in the tournament. She shot 58%. She was 57% from three-point range. I think, really that alone, being on that national stage, there's a bunch of scouts at all these games, that her stock really went up, not just this season, but also in the NCAA tournament, really showing off her skill, her taking over a game type of skill, her leadership skills, her versatility. I think that really skyrocketed what she's going to be like when it comes to scouting and where she can land in the WNBA draft. I think there's no doubt she gets drafted. There's no doubt about it in my mind that Serena Sundell is going to be a draft pick. But could that have maybe projected now or lifted her to potentially being a first-round draft pick? I think that's a possibility now with what she did in the NCAA tournament.
Mitch, I don't want to interrupt you, but we do have a little bit of breaking news.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Talia Goodman of On3 is reporting that Eliza Maupin is headed into the transfer portal.
Okay, Eliza Maupin into the portal. Not a surprise by that, because she's going to be entering her senior year. That's most likely. That's, I think, for sure an area that she would have been recruited over when it comes to the transfer portal. Because, now that actually with K-State's freshmen that are coming in, and we're going to have to get to, the latest addition that came in yesterday out of the transfer portal, or I should say out of the high school ranks for the class of 2025. It's a pretty big get for K-State. It's a 4-star recruit. But now with Maupin leaving, that officially has 2 spots open for next year's roster, which I would imagine now for sure anything that they fill is going to be out of the transfer portal. So Eliza Maupin, moving on. Want to thank her for her work.
Absolutely.
Pretty athletic player, but she was just a lot in front of her. She spent her entire career at Aoka. I hope she lands at a place that she's going to get a lot of minutes and an opportunity to start, because she absolutely deserves it. So thanks to Eliza Maupin for her 3 years here at K-State. That wraps up a very short hour number 1. We got a full hour 2 coming up next. Wyatt Thompson is next on Wildcat Insider.
Lemunion dry out and foundation repair, when the big surprises strike your home.
Mr. Ed here with Lemunion Dry Out and Foundation Repair. Is your basement wet, feel damp, or have a bad odor? Are your foundation walls cracked or bowed? Maybe your foundation is sinking or settling. For peace of mind and permanent solutions to foundation problems and basement or crawl space waterproofing, visit us at lemunion.com today. That's LAMUNYON.com. Or call 800-528-5535 and schedule a free consultation. Not a sales pitch. Ask about our fantastic 25-year transferable warranties.
Find us online at lemunion.com. Your dry and safe basement pros. Leave it to Lemunion when the big surprises strike your home.
Blueville Nursery's Horticulture Hints radio show comes to your radio every Friday morning at 10 a.m. We will discuss timely gardening and landscape topics to help you keep your lawn and garden in tip-top shape. Blueville Nursery has been your local landscape service and garden store for over 50 years, and we want to share our time-tested techniques with you. From vegetable gardening, spring and summer annuals, to shade trees and lawn care, we'll cover it all. You're welcome to call into the show to ask questions that apply to your own landscape or garden. Stay tuned to Blueville Nursery's Horticulture Hints radio show every Friday at 10 a.m. right here on News Radio KMAN.
Every body is different. Some get injured and others wear down. At Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Center, your unique condition is at the center of what we do. Locally owned, OSMC is all-inclusive, featuring state-of-the-art equipment and treatment from diagnosis through surgery, physical therapy, and a return to activity to get you back to an active and pain-free life. Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Center, the same doctors trusted by Kansas State University. The greatest comebacks begin here. More information at KansasOrtho.com.
What? You want more? You got more. More of the game coming up next on News Radio KMAN, Manhattan.
From the KMAN newsroom, I'm Bernie Fanzala with your 5 p.m. news update. A man charged with first-degree murder is scheduled to appear in court for his arraignment after a preliminary examination concluded Friday in Riley County District Court. 24-year-old Hunter Logan Smith will be arraigned on counts of murder and criminal threat. He was arrested on November 11 at 3001 Arbor Drive after Riley County Police responded to a reported stabbing. Following the incident, the victim was taken to Ascension Via Christi and then flown to Stormont Vale in Topeka, where they died from their injuries. Smith also stabbed himself and was treated for his injuries at Ascension Via Christi. Smith's arraignment is set for April 14 with Judge Kendra Lewison. Trey Bryant, Smith's attorney and chief public defender, said he will be coordinating with the state and court to get a later date due to a scheduling conflict. No injuries were reported this morning after a sport utility vehicle caught on fire north of Manhattan. Firefighters from Riley County Fire District No. 1 were dispatched around 7:20 a.m. to the 7400 block of Tuttle Creek Boulevard, less than a mile south of the 4-mile corner. Fire officials were unable to determine a cause. The fire resulted in a brief closure of the highway and later reduced traffic to one lane during the morning commute as crews cleared the scene and began their investigation. The scene was turned over to the Kansas Highway Patrol, which is continuing to investigate. A local health clinic is planning an expansion later this year. Bryce Dolan, spokesperson for Riley Family Physicians, part of the Clay County Medical Center system, explains.
The clinic will grow from a total of 4 exam rooms to 10. There will be a dedicated mental health suite, a nurse's station, a larger lobby waiting area, and a dedicated lab station or lab area as well at Riley Family Physicians.
The project will add around 1,700 square feet of additional space at the clinic in Riley. Expansion will begin in July and should be completed in early 2026. A Topeka-based manufacturer may soon occupy a new industrial space in East Manhattan. City commissioners on Tuesday will consider on first reading an economic development agreement with PTMW, a metal fabrication company. The company intends to enter a lease agreement with Flint Hills Ventures, LLC, which owns a warehouse facility under construction at 1105 Kretschmer Drive. City officials will also consider a technology purchase that's expected to improve software for licensing and permitting. City commissioners meet at 6 p.m. Tuesday at City Hall. A fast food restaurant on Manhattan's west side has closed. Arby's at 326 Southwind Place in the Setchild Commons Shopping Center served customers for the last time on Sunday. Shift manager Deline O'Donnell writing in a post on Facebook, the closure is due to the building in need of a massive renovation and the volume of business at the location not being enough to justify the cost. One Arby's location in Manhattan remains open at 405 McCall Road. A K-State dairy specialist is reminding producers to stay vigilant in their biosecurity measures to control the spread of highly pathogenic avian influenza. Nearly 1,000 herds have been affected across the U.S. since HPAI cases began ramping up about 16 months ago, but has weakened over that time. Mike Brooks says it's been well contained in Kansas.
Here in Kansas, our last infected herd was actually detected April 17th of 2024, so we've been almost a year now without a new infected herd in our state.
He says Kansas has a milk monitoring system that is responsible for getting regular samples from silos of milk at dairy processing plants to determine if it is carrying HPAI.
This is occurring across much of the United States and actually has helped us detect HPAI in some of the dairy herds that have been more recently detected.
Brooks says surveillance is happening nationwide and has helped with detection of HPAI in some of the recently infected herds. Unemployment in Kansas remained at 3.8% in February, unchanged from the month before, according to preliminary data from the Kansas Department of Labor and Bureau of Labor Statistics. Locally, unemployment in the Manhattan area ticked up 0.3% to 3.9% from January to February. The next round of data from the Kansas Department of Labor will be released on April 18th.
News is powered by Central National Bank with locations at the Walmart Supercenter and at College and Claflin. Central National Bank, member FDIC.
Weather on News Radio KMAN is brought to you by Sunset Zoo. Join the Sunset Zoo April 19th to celebrate Earth Day featuring animal enrichment, community booths, scavenger hunts, and more.
Your News Radio KMAN Manhattan area weather forecast. Right now, 58 degrees and partly cloudy skies. Tonight, increasing clouds and a low around 42 with a light southeast wind increasing from 5 to 10 miles an hour after midnight. Tomorrow, wind advisory, breezy with a south wind from 10 to 15 miles an hour. Winds gusting as high as 40. The high tomorrow at 69. Tomorrow night, showers and thunderstorms mainly before 1 a.m. That chance of precipitation at 90%. Back to Wildcat Insider on News Radio KMAN.
All right, now we have finally a full hour of Wildcat Insider on News Radio KMAN. Mitch Fortner from Spokane, Washington. Back in Manhattan in the KMAN studio is Tim Everson from the Manhattan Mercury. Cole Dutchendorf is on the board. We're going to be speaking with Wyatt Thompson in just a moment. K-State wraps up their season, the women, with 28 victories in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. We got some breaking news just moments ago. Talia Goodman of On3 reporting that Eliza Maupin has entered the transfer portal. She is the first basketball player, either men's or women's, to jump into the portal. She just wrapped up her junior season. The 6'3" forward from Webster Groves, Missouri, had 4 points, 2.5 rebounds per game this past year. Obviously got more playing time with Aoka Lee injured. Her numbers actually kind of dwindled down after the KU game when actually Aoki attempted to make a return, and she played 15 minutes in that KU game after that, did not see single-digit minutes for the rest of her time at K-State. She only played in one game in the NCAA tournament. That was against Fairfield, where she had 5 points in 7 minutes, had a couple of rebounds there as well, and just kind of some garbage time minutes. Her time in the rotation did certainly diminish as well throughout conference play. And unfortunately for Maupin, just never really developed any outside shooting. She's a 6'3" wing who just didn't have the jump shot. She was an inside scorer only. I think that's what really hurt her the most there. But still a talented, athletic player for sure. And really appreciate her time. I'll never forget the game last year against Baylor where she went off. If it wasn't for Eliza Maupin stepping up, K-State does not go into last year without getting one of their biggest wins of the year and beating Baylor on the road in Waco. That was in huge parts to Eliza Maupin getting it done. So 2 spots now open on K-State women's basketball roster. There's a couple of seniors. Gisela Sanchez does have an opportunity to play another year. And Kennedy Taylor, I know K-State's working on a waiver to get her another year of eligibility. So we'll just kind of wait and see on those two on what's going to happen there. Well, we're now pleased to be joined by the voice of the K-State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson. Wyatt, we were just talking there a little bit about in the late there, the first hour with the Royals wrapping up of K-State women's basketball. Unfortunately, their season, though, coming to an end and another hell of a run for this team, falling, though, in the Sweet 16 to USC. Such a memorable group there, Wyatt, that just wrapped up their careers.
Well, you said that perfectly. Good to be on with you again, Mitch. I think as I look back on this group, there's just so many memories and so many things that they accomplished, both collectively and individually, that I think will stay with, real what I'll call real true K-State fans for a long, long time. I know a lot of people have already even said things like, well, we certainly know Aoka Lee is going to go into the Raptors at some point, and Serena Sundell too. I'm sure you're in agreement with that, and I think most are. I think it'll happen someday. And boy, I hated to see it come to a close. I really, truly did, and especially the way it did, because Mitch, I thought they didn't play great, but I thought they played all right, and they had a chance, and that's all you can ask for. But as the headline on Scott Friction's article this morning said, end of an era. Boy, that's true in my mind.
Well, I mean, and you were, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not getting my years mixed up, but, you would have been around for the end of their careers, but I remember Lori Kane, Kendra Wecker, Megan Mahoney, they all came in at the same time, along with Bree Madden. That was also that was a freshman class that was just stacked with talent, and they, at least for the Kane, Wecker, and Mahoney part, they all exited the same. Does that feel like kind of the same impact, or is just this group alone, this goes down as one of the greatest senior classes in K-State sports history?
When I first got to K-State, that group that you just described was playing here, and I remember it vividly because when I got here, Jim Oldridge was the men's coach at K-State, and They had an okay team, but they weren't, setting the world on fire at that time. But the women were, and they were selling out Bramlage, and everybody was going, and everybody was talking about, the Nicole Oldies and the Kendra Weckers and the Lori Kanes and the Megan Mahonies. And when you think about it, I don't know that this is just my opinion. Okay, I love this group. Don't misunderstand in any way, but for me, that first time is always probably the most special, and that group to me was just in terms of talent, be pretty hard to beat. So I guess that says a lot in terms of the history of women's basketball. Those two eras probably top everybody. Now, again, there are a couple of really good teams prior to that I didn't see, but man, was that a special group too.
Wyatt Thompson is our guest, and I do agree. I mean, those are the two best groups, no doubt about it, in K-State women's basketball history. Aokile's going to be in the rafters. She already is, actually, technically, with the
Correct.
61 points against Oklahoma a couple of years ago. I think Serena Sundell, in my eyes, is a no-doubter for the rafters of Bramlage Coliseum. So
I think she is going to go down as one of the, what would you say, 10 to 15 best players in K-State women's basketball history. And I'm talking about Serena now. I just so appreciated her career and I think I even said this last week, to pass somebody like Shaylee Lanning in the assists and how she grew. And I loved her comments after the game, thanking her teammates. It's so typical of her, right? Boy, what's so fun to watch. And the thing that I think really stood out for me with her is that, I'm sure you'll agree with this too, Mitch, she was able to do so many different things on the floor, left and right hand, out to 20 feet, could post up, good leader, good defender. I mean, she didn't have very many weaknesses, let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you can argue, because I brought it up with Kristen Waller last week, that, I just simply asked her, is Aokele the GOAT of women's college basketball? Yep. If you go by the records that she owns, she for sure absolutely is. There's no doubt about that. And I know she got another year. She got a lot of extra years, but unfortunately ran into a lot of injuries. But she does play a fifth year. Still just played, I think, 8 more games than Kendra Wecker, who had, the scoring record. So,
right.
But that she was afforded an extra year because of COVID and all that. Serena did not get an extra year of COVID. Still the leader in assists. She has a school record for assists in a season. She's in the top 10 in points, in blocks, best ever assist to turnover ratio. I think what she has, and this makes her a WNBA player, it's her size. Her size and versatility. She's a 6'2" point guard, which is incredibly special and kind of rare. So I think when you want to talk about being one of the best of all time, I think there's no doubt about it. Serena Sundell, I would put her, I mean, I don't have all the history on K-State women's basketball, but I think it's fair to say she's at least top 15. I think there's a amazing argument for top 10 ever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And again, the versatility is what you like. Versatility and personality, I think, is Serena, right? I just found her to be such a delight to talk to, and just a terrific young lady in person, and just the development over the course of time. She just got better and better and better. And when she talked about her experience and what it means to her, to me, that's, sometimes in athletics, especially the way it is today, we kind of forget about, that those kind of things are a little bit rare nowadays. And I guess I appreciate it even more now than I did before, just because will we ever see a Serena Sundell again at K-State? I don't. I know forever is a long time, but it's going to be challenging to find one that sustained it as long as she did and as well as she did it.
Yeah, I dare anybody to go out there and look at other programs in the country, especially those that are considered blue bloods, and find some players that are in the top 6 or 7 in their program's history in assists and blocks. I think that's That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you can go and find a Magic Johnson or somebody like that, I suppose. But I don't know that you're going to find that many in the women's game. Now, they haven't played as long either. I understand that. But I'm not even sure what her block total was. You probably know that, Mitch. But that's what I'm saying. Her versatility, just her all-around game, would rival most, if not all.
104 blocks for Serena Sendell in her career.
Well, for a 6'2" point guard, that's pretty legit.
So this past weekend, Wyatt, you called more K-State baseball. I tried to watch as much as I could. I watched the walk-off yesterday. I was sitting at a bar and watching it on my phone while watching watching the NCAA tournament on the men's side. They end up sweeping Texas Tech. Texas Tech, I think their record is not showing how good they are. But I wanted to get your takeaways from what you saw about the BatCats. Bullpen was great. The offense hitting more home runs, and they continue to lead the Big 12.
And they won a game yesterday that you probably don't always win, right? I mean, they were probably outplayed for a pretty good portion of the game. Texas Tech stranded a ton of base runners through the course of the game. I thought Quevedo did a decent job. Probably didn't go quite as long as I think Coach Hughes wanted him to. But then you turn it to that bullpen, and boy, the bullpen in the last couple of games in the series, as you mentioned, was really, really pivotal. And sometimes you just get timely hits and those types of things. Yesterday, the wind kind of knocked down a lot of that K-State right-handed power hitting, but at the end of the day, they got a really nice pinch hit by Sam Flores, and then got a little help with a couple of hit batsmen, but then in a way makes Tech pay and gets the walk-off. It was a great feeling for being around that for a little while, and calling those 4 games last week, because you just get it's a fun team to watch, I believe, and I think Pete likes this group. I don't think they have reached their capabilities yet. I was so excited, as an example, to see J.J. Slack and Ty Rule pitch the way they did yesterday, because let's be honest, they got knocked around a little bit last weekend at Baylor, and if they could be a little bit more consistent, and they're certainly capable, man, you sure kind of like where they're at. That's obvious, but where they could go, I think is exciting too.
So you mentioned there's some areas that you still see K-State. They're not where they're capable of. They still got a lot of room to grow. Are you looking at the pitching staff as that area that maybe still has a little bit of work to do? I mean, I guess if I'm looking at the numbers here, 10 walks over the weekend, they strike out 27, an ERA of 3.33. Maybe it was just the starting pitching that just maybe didn't go as long, that it's like, well, there's still room for growing. There's still maybe some small inconsistencies, but is that the area you would go in?
Well, I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying. I think their starting pitching has been solid, and I know Pete Hughes believes that. But instead of going, let's say as an example, you go 4 1/3 or 4 2/3 with your starter, maybe you get one more inning. If you go 5 2/3 or maybe even 6 full innings, it just takes stress off of your bullpen. And I think just visiting with Coach Hughes in the last 4 days with the Tuesday and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think he likes the capabilities of the pen and the arms out there. And let's just, I guess what I'm saying is if all of those guys, between now and the end of the year get somewhere close to their capabilities, then now I think you're really talking, because I think offensively they really have a pretty darn good hitting team with quite a bit of power. Probably, got some strength there with the I'm just a big fan of some of these kids that really have, I wasn't expecting, as an example, anything like what Maximus Martin is giving them. And maybe I should have been. I don't know. But he's just been dynamite. They pitched him pretty well, probably the last game and a half out of the 3-game set. But they're the first team to really cool him down a little bit. But, man, is he a talented player. And I like Dardar and I like Inouye, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but those guys have really fit in well. And I think the chemistry's good. They're winning games. They're confident. Love the way they did it yesterday. They just kept hanging in.
Yeah, they did, and K-State baseball has now done this already multiple times this year, where they've made some late inning rallies, or they've walked off a game. Like if they're within 3 or 4 runs and you're heading into the 8th or 9th inning, K-State is absolutely still in it, and they got it done without even recording an out. Like in that bottom of the 9th, that no outs, they got the bases loaded and they made it happen. Shintaro Inouye with the game-winning hit. I guess one more thought on the pitching I just want to bring up real quick. I'll give you my thought and I'll let you react to it. And I think what my favorite thing is about this, just the whole group right now, starting pitching or bullpen or whatever, I think what K-State's been able to do consistently is not allow things to snowball, if you know what I mean. Because Texas Tech on Sunday, I think they left 13 on base. So if K-State does get in a jam, odds are that they're going to somehow work out of it.
Well, minimizing damage is what you're describing, and that's such a big thing in Major League Baseball. But it isn't all of baseball, right? I mean, that's the point you're making, and that's what I'm saying too. In that, yesterday's game, it could have gotten away from them, but it didn't. And part of that is fighting your way out of jams. And they had a Wyatt in the game Saturday he was really good, Mitch. I know you were gone and covering the women and that, but just a couple of gold stars for his effort. And then, what they did yesterday too was really good. I felt, because Tech hasn't played like they're capable of probably, but you know what? They've got a couple of 2 or 3 hitters in the middle of that lineup that are pretty darn good. And we'll see others as we go deeper into the year. But I thought when K-State had to get a big out, they kind of did that. And minimizing damage is big.
One other thought about baseball is I'll bring up their RPI here real quick, because they entered the weekend at number 25. They have jumped up to number 18 in the RPI. And I brought this up with Trevor Hurley last week, and I'm only just bringing it because I think I know the answer, right? But I'm only even bringing it up because it's still March. I don't think we've even hit the halfway mark of the season, the regular season, and we're already having this conversation. So I'll just get your thoughts on this and get the headline answer from you, Wyatt. And that is, do you see K-State as a concrete regional team and already a really solid opportunity to potentially win a Big 12 championship?
Well, I'd say the short answer to both is yes. And I think when you're at this particular point and you study a little bit about, what their schedule is, I'm just being honest about this. This is talking about K-State's strengths a lot, but just the reality of some other things too. In the regular season, they don't play Arizona or Arizona State. That's a big advantage, right? Mm-hmm. Now, they do have to play at Kansas, and as you know, those guys are rolling along pretty good too. I think going into yesterday, K-State had hit 48 home runs, and they had hit 56 or something like that. So they're really excited about their team too, and they just whipped Oklahoma State this weekend. So, but I do think they're a regional team as we speak today. I think they've played that with some of the early, they were 4-5, and I think what have they gone 17-4 since? That's a streak now. That's really good. So yeah, I think for sure. Can they win the league? It's hard to do, but I think it's out there for the getting if you continue to play consistent and make some of those improvements that we talked about. And I just I know the way Pete thinks. Just kind of visiting with him again, I'll just stress this. He likes the team, likes the makeup of the team, and I think he would love to. I don't think he just wants to go to a regional. He wants to host one. And you know what? I don't blame him. That'd be a heck of a thing.
Well, this is especially early on this season, since we're still in March, this is the best example of an Omaha standard that Coach Hughes likes to preach all the time. This is the best example of an Omaha standard I think I've ever seen in K-State in baseball history since I've ever been covering the team. I think that's fair to say.
I think
all right, one more thought. Go ahead.
This is a good group. Well, I was just going to say, he's had some quality teams here. They were a super regional team last year, but again, this team has some serious potential. You got to stay healthy. Got to keep grinding, though. A long way to go. You're right. They're not quite halfway through. Long way to go.
All right, just one quick thought on football real quick, because we have our spring football starts this week, right? We got a Chris Kleiman press conference coming up on Wednesday. Do you think he's going to be a little grumpy once again because of having to try to cut this roster down to 105, and that's a big chore during spring ball?
Yeah, I think the short answer to that is yeah, but I don't think he's the only one, and everybody is having to deal with it. So I suppose here's the thing, though, that I think he the way he looks at it, and I've had conversations with him about this, and you know this too, covering the team. K-State has, for a long, long, long time, just really thrived, I guess I'll say, with guys in that 105 to 115 range that became scholarship players that in some cases became starters, in some cases became an NFL guy, those types of things. And it's hard to lose that. It's most difficult. And it makes cutting down, from 115-ish or such a matter down to that, because, everybody has to do it. But those decisions, you better be right. You're right. I mean, sometimes you just don't know. A lot of times guys will mature and get better rapidly. Others are a little bit slower. So there's a fine line there, I think.
Yeah, it's an understanded frustration, no doubt about that, but it seems like that might be one of the top storylines with spring ball getting ready to start, trying to cut down this roster. Quite the chore. Don't envy Coach at all for having to go through what he's going through right now. Wyatt, with that being said, since I'm in Spokane, you're on the phone. This wasn't the easiest interview to pull off, but I really appreciate your time, and hoping to we'll see you later on this week at the Kleiman press conference.
That sounds very good. Hope you enjoyed Spokane despite the tough loss there to end it, but we'll see you soon. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Wyatt. That's Wyatt Thompson, the voice of the Wildcats. Yeah, Spokane's all right. I wish I had a vehicle like it since I have this spare time to go hike or something, but Uber's been kind of my best friend, and there's a pretty decent casino here in town that I don't mind donating a few bucks to. Don't really see a whole lot of casinos that have the food court directly next to the slots and the games and all that stuff. Pretty convenient. Really nice place. All right. With that being said, we need to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we honor our seniors that in a legendary senior class that depart. We're going to hear from Aoka Lee, Serena Sundell, Jalen Glenn after a timeout on Wildcat Insider.
You're listening to Wildcat Insider.
Can you help me access my work computer now that I'm working from home?
We can do that. Is it possible for you to troubleshoot my computer without me coming into your store? We can do that.
I'm getting messages that my password's been compromised by hackers.
We can.
And that I have malware installed. I don't even go to the mall.
We can do all of that.
Fox Business Systems business level support. We can do that.
Call 776-1452 or stop by 531 Fort Riley Boulevard. WeBuildSolutions.com.
Manhattan Broadcasting is keeping it local. Dollars spent locally today help build a better community for tomorrow.
From simple things like hail damage to complete restoration, Quality Collision will keep your car looking as good as the day you bought it, and they work with all major insurance companies. Quality Collision, where quality is more than their name, it's a promise to their customers.
Connect to anywhere in the world with 5 daily flights to Dallas and Chicago when you fly local with Manhattan Regional Airport. You'll spend less time driving, saving you gas and time, and more importantly, you'll get home quicker to the ones you love. Click your next flight at flymhk.com.
This month at Baskin-Robbins is chocolate chip cheesecake, cheesecake and chocolate cheesecake ice cream with cheesecake pieces. It doesn't get any better than this. This month, all small shakes, blasts, and smoothies only $5. Baskin-Robbins in downtown Manhattan. Come get some.
Manhattan Broadcasting is keeping it local. Find more great local businesses plus special deals and offers when you keep it local on our website.
Get your passport, sunscreen, and week's vacation ready for an all-expense-paid trip to Cabo San Lucas, courtesy of U-Stop Phillips 66 and Friendship House. Your chance to get registered to become an instant finalist this week is at Parker Hannafin on Hayes Drive in Manhattan. Stop into Parker Hannafin this week and register. Friday between noon and 1 p.m., 10 instant finalists will be one step closer for their chance to win. So get into Parker Hannafin and get registered today. Passport to Cabo is brought to you by U-Stop Phillips 66 and Friendship House.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
It's what we were taught, trained, and told to do.
It could be for anything. Helping a friend move.
Listening to a fellow veteran for hours, at any hour of the day.
Or just simply making time for people. A neighbor, a loved one, or even a stranger.
We're often the first to help others. There's no question about it.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
Perhaps it's time to do for yourself what you would do for others.
If you or someone you know needs resources,
I'm Cole Betchendorf with the Wildcat Insider Sports Update. The road for Kansas State women came to an end Saturday evening, falling 67-61 to USC in the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA tournament. Serena Sundell put up a game-high 22 points. She also grabbed 6 rebounds and recorded 6 assists with no turnovers in her final game at K-State. Less than 24 hours after their season came to an end, the women's team added another high school recruit to its 2025 class in the form of Brandy Harrod, the number 42 overall prospect according to 24/7 Sports. She's a 6'1" forward from Putnam City North High School in Oklahoma City and has received a 4-star rating from 24/7 Sports, On3, and ESPN. Harrod was originally committed to Auburn but reopened her recruitment after head coach Johnny Harris was fired following the SEC tournament. Kansas State's Eliza Maupin has entered the transfer portal, sources told On3 earlier this afternoon. The 6'3" junior averaged 3.9 points per game off the bench this season for the Wildcats. Salvador Perez hit his first home run of the season. Chris Bubich became the first Royals pitcher to record a quality start this season, and the Royals spoiled the Milwaukee Brewers home opener, winning 11-1. All 9 hitters for Kansas City recorded either an RBI or a run scored in the game. After a series sweep over Texas Tech over the weekend and going 4-0 on the week, K-State baseball moved into the top 25 on D1 Baseball's most recent rankings. One thing to note before we hop back to Wildcat Insider, due to a gas leak, please avoid Marlott Avenue from Browning Avenue to Sethchild Road. Kansas Gas and Manhattan Fire are on the scene to resolve this issue.
Marlatt.
My fault.
Marlatt Avenue. Man.
Hey, you've been in Manhattan
right?
longer. You've been in Manhattan longer than I have, you know?
That's true. All right, we're back on Wildcat Insider. Thank you for that update, by the way, Cole. Great to get that news out there. Mitch Fortner, Tim Everson, Cole Dutchendorf. Wildcat Insider continues. We'll take you until 6 o'clock. As Cole mentioned during that update, can't believe I forgot to mention this earlier, but K-State baseball finally ranked. They're ranked finally 22nd in the nation from D1 baseball. And according to their RPI ranking, they've now moved up to number 18.
About time.
Yeah, about time. Yeah, absolutely. what Cole also mentioned there during the update, it was less than 24 hours K-State women's basketball season comes to an end, and they add a high school recruit for 2025. Phenomenal pickup, the 42nd best player in the country according to 24/7 Sports. She is a 4-star wing, and Brandy Herod, 6'1", Putnam City North High School in Oklahoma City. 4-star rating from 24/7, On3, and ESPN, who was originally committed to Auburn. Auburn fires that head coach who had just had a terrible last couple seasons. And so she opens up her recruitment again and picks K-State, who it sounds like it could have been K-State there in the first cycle, but just ended up picking Auburn. But she had a ton of attention from Oklahoma State, Colorado, Utah, Florida State, Georgia, or among others. Mississippi State was in there as well. But this past season, 13.5 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists per game. She shoots 47% and won a state championship. So she was an McDonald's All-American nominee, 4th recruit for the 2025 class. And this is a star-studded class, by the way. It's full of stars. And I'm not just talking about the star ratings from On3 and 24/7 and all that. Jordan Spicer, who is a McDonald's All-American, as a matter of fact, going through her scrimmages right now for that game. 5-star along with 4-star Anaya Foy. And how about the Spanish point guard and Gina Garcia Safont, who make up a top 5 now recruiting class for K-State women's basketball, which is arguably one of the best recruiting classes in all sports in K-State history. Almost poetic. You transition from one of the greatest senior classes for any sports. We're talking about K-State women's basketball, and now you transition to one of the best recruiting classes ever for K-State athletics. So congratulations to K-State women for getting Brandy Harrod and building on that 2025 class. And then also from out of K-State men's basketball, we do now know that taking a visit today for K-State men's basketball is Markel Sutton. He's a 6'8" wing senior transfer from Omaha. I love this guy because has that tie to AEW, because AEW kind of adopted the Omaha Mavericks as their NCAA tournament team, busting up the trash cans. They were hanging out with AEW wrestlers, and he happens to be the Summit League Player of the Year. 19 points, 8 rebounds a game, and go along with a couple of assists. Not a three-point shooter. You would like to see those numbers to be a lot better, but he's still one of the biggest recruits in the transfer portal. He's in the top 60, and without him, he was the guy to turn around Omaha basketball. He was absolutely the guy, the leader, the best player, like I mentioned, in the Summit League, got them to the NCAA tournament. They won the Summit League. They won the tournament to get their automatic bid. And this guy was a star up north, and this would be a short trip. Now, there's some things I don't like about him necessarily. I shouldn't put it that way. There's just some things that race him antennas, like, he's not a shot blocker for his size, doesn't hit threes, but still quite the talent. He gets to the rim. He has a mid-range game to him. So it would still be a very exciting, again, because he is quite the athlete that can shoot out of rhythm and bury some shots. Tim, is there anything you want to add about these two before we move on?
Yeah, sounds like probably the shot blocking aside, sounds like a David Gasson replacement a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I'm more than happy to find someone in that mold. That obviously worked out, as well as anything did this past offseason. As for the K-State women, they're rolling, and they have this recruiting momentum, and obviously making that second weekend only helps you. So keep it up.
So I wanted to take just a few moments, and I want to honor this senior class real quick. Now, and when I mentioned this senior class, Tamira Poindexter was here for 1 year. She had one of the best three-point shooting years in a single season. Here at K-State was over 40%. She almost made 100, which is incredible. You have Kitty D. Taylor, who was here for 1 year, and finally K-State had a backup for Aokley that could be a steady 5 and be a consistent player. And then Gisela Sanchez, who I guess has an option to come back for 1 more year. Certainly I don't know if I'd call her a wild card at times. You never knew quite exactly what you're going to get out of out of Gisela Sanchez, but I really wanted to focus on Aoka Lee, Serena Sundell, and Jalen Glenn. First starting with Jalen Glenn, scores over 1,200 points. She came in along with her sister Briley, who still has another year and sounds like she's going to stick around with K-State. But she, in her career, 227 threes. That's the 8th most all-time. 320 assists, 15th most all-time. But she was really known for her defense. One of the best defenders in K-State women's basketball history with 265 steals in her 4 years. She was a 4-year starter, and that is 4th all-time in program history. I caught up with Jalen Glenn after the loss to USC. Here's a couple of minutes from that interview.
Jalen, I guess just seeing it come to an end tonight, just what has this team overall meant to you, and how much did you enjoy the fight out there tonight?
I had fun tonight. I thought it was a fun game. It stinks that it didn't go our way, but I love this team. I love our effort. I'm not disappointed in anything that we did tonight. And this team means everything to me. This year has brought me closer to people who I probably would have never met without this sport. This team means a lot to me, but I loved our effort tonight, so yeah.
What made this group in particular so special for you?
I think just our fight, just everything that we've gone through this year, and we never let up. And then specifically just people like Kennedy. I've played against her my whole life, but never with her. I feel like we've never really been friends, but I would say she's one of the people I'm closest with on the team now. So you just see things like that happen in this game and in this life, and I think it's amazing, and these are definitely people I'll hold close to my heart for the rest of my life.
Okay, so that wasn't me asking the questions, but I was there, obviously. Jalen Glenn, playing as a freshman right away, that it turned out to be, I don't know if it was necessarily known at the time, because actually Jalen, when compared to Serena and compared to her sister Briley, I believe she was the highest rated recruit in that class. She was a top 50 type of player. She was much higher rated than Serena was, and even Aoka Lee, who graduates with them, even Aoka Lee coming out of high school wasn't nearly as highly touted as Jalen Glenn was, and what a career for Jalen. As I mentioned, those numbers there, but being a starter for all 4 years, that's not an easy thing to do, and to come in and be just that concrete defender, and her three-point shooting really took off this year. Jalen Glenn is a legend in my opinion. Along with these other two seniors, Serena Sundell finishes with 1,771 points, that's 6th all-time, 577 rebounds, 23rd all-time. 182 steals, 104 blocks, which is 7th all-time. She set the program record for career assist-to-turnover ratio at 1.9. She set the program record for assists in a season with 262 this year, and she set the program record for all-time assists, passing Shaylee Lenning by 11. She finishes with 811 assists. Here's a couple of questions with Serena Sundell.
One question about the game.
Let's skip that one, actually. Let's move on. I didn't edit this earlier, so let's get to this.
So I didn't know until like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if from D. Scott Fritchen, he mentioned that maybe like when you were coming out of high school, you didn't feel like you were a D1 player. If that's true, did you prove yourself wrong?
Yeah, so K-State was my only Power 5 offer at the time, so I thought I was more of a mid-major level player, and I wanted to go somewhere I could, be a star in my role, but I also wanted to play at the highest level. So, yeah, I think I did prove myself wrong. Very capable of playing at the highest level.
What did it mean for you and everybody else to finish this out with Yoki on the floor and coming back from 2 foot injuries and battling back and being out there the last 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, that just is such a testament to her character and who she is, that she was not going to be denied to get back on the court with us one last time. So just to have her out there and be able to go on this little run at the end of our season was super special.
What do you think the impression you made on the young players, the lasting impression that they're going to take for the rest of their lives and their basketball careers and grow from it?
Yeah, I think we I'm proud of the girls I came in with. I think we left the program better than we found it. We've raised the standard of our program. So hopefully that those girls just kind of have that confidence that our program is one that wants to be in the March Madness tournament every year. They have confidence in themselves, and they see, players like me and players like Yoki come in and really grow throughout their careers. So just being trusting in our staff and understanding that the process is long, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah, that Serena said something there that really hit home, and that's they absolutely left the program in a much better position than where they found it necessarily. I mean, heck, you go back to the Jeff Mitty area, the tail end there of the Deb Patterson area. It was pretty bad, and it took a while to get here. It was quite the climb for Jeff Mitty to find the right group to catapult this program to another level. And now we see it with the recruiting. The recruiting is at a complete another level now at this point. And it started with players that were undervalued, that needed some room to grow and be leaders. And we saw this group play all 4 years, play full 4 years and be just absolute legends. And then, of course, is Ayoka Lee. And I'm going to just state this right now. Ayoka Lee is my absolute favorite player I've ever covered, ever. No doubt about that. Not necessarily because of what she said at press conferences or anything like that. It was really just about her humbleness. She was kind of undervalued coming out of high school, and she grew into being not only a leader but one of the best players ever in program history. And it was also about the battles that she went through. She went through extensive rehab 5 times in her career. 5 times, from knee injuries to foot injuries. She has gone through a lot to finish out her career, to do what she loves. K-State also provided her a lot to be able to continue to play basketball here, to exhaust her eligibility. She's working through. She's doing family therapy. K-State's been able to make that happen for her so she can finish her career. And what a legendary one it was. I'll just put it this way: when it comes to records, she'll hold at least 50 program records as she wraps up her career. And I can't believe I'm saying it. Her career is done, but she is now the all-time leading scorer, all-time leader in field goals, scoring average, rebounds, blocks, so on and so forth. She was extremely emotional. By the time I got to my one-on-one with her, she already done the press conference. She wanted nothing to do with me, and I totally understand with that. But just one quote here from Ayoka Lee about being grateful about her time.
To have a coach that has just continued to believe in me through everything I've been through, and to have teammates like Serena who have just been like game changers from the minute they stepped on campus. I don't think not everyone gets to have a college career like that. So extremely grateful.
I'm glad, Bramlage finally started to fill up, for a handful of games these last couple of years. Because I had been preaching forever that I feel like Ayoka Lee is the difference maker, the player that take K-State women's basketball to the next level. I called her first game on the radio, and I was more than honored to be in attendance to see her last game. And it was quite the honor to cover this team as a broadcaster, as just a member of the media, their entire run. I only missed a handful of home games. I've been covering K-State women's basketball for now 13 seasons. I've been covering, football, basketball, baseball for a number of years as well, of course, now. No doubt about it, this is my favorite group ever. Probably go down as like the Dean, Barry, and Cam of K-State women's basketball. I know they don't have the Big 12 championship, but they – for a lot of areas, they rewrote this record book. Tim, anything? Sorry I took up all that time there, but is there anything else you want to add about how legendary this group is for K-State, not just women's basketball, K-State athletics, and we're going to see some more jerseys going up in the rafters?
No, you said a lot there, and I agree with all of it, obviously. It's just been special, and in this kind of era of, women's basketball, gaining more followers, gaining more prominence, just in our sporting lives total. It was just, K-State got to have its part of it with those three, and you throw Briley in there, even though she will become a Nat back next year most likely. But they really kind of set the stage for what could be next. I mean, they're like we said, they're recruiting with some of the best teams in the country right now. It goes past this incoming class, the class after that, and it's just going to be exciting to see where things go. And they've kind of laid the groundwork of what it should look like, and K-State fans should be more than grateful for what they've contributed in their time.
Yeah, now obviously the goals moving forward is to somehow get back to obviously being, continue, I should say, to be a Big 12 championship contender, winning the thing finally, because it's been a little bit, and going further than the Sweet 16, which has only happened one time in program history. But there's obviously a ton of time to talk about the future. Just one other thing about Aoka Lee and Serena Sundell specifically is they both have opportunities to be WNBA players. I don't know exactly what Yoki wants to do, if she does want to go forward and become draft eligible and be selected, continue her basketball career, because she is very dedicated to being a family therapist. Serena Sundell is going to be drafted. I'm pretty sure she's going to go into the WNBA draft. She will get picked up because of this NCAA tournament run. It's a possibility she could be a late first rounder. If not, second or third, I think there's no doubt she's going to be drafted. She is that good. She's that versatile, and she is an absolute sleeper for a team who's going to be quite grateful that they drafted Serena Sundell. All right. With that being said, we got to take a quick break as we possibly can. We're going to wrap it up as we transition now into another run of spring K-State football. Tim is going to give us his storylines when we come back to wrap up Wildcat Insider next.
You're listening to Wildcat Insider.
Manhattan Broadcasting Company is an equal opportunity employer. In order to widely publicize our job opportunities and outreach programs and organizations that regularly distribute information to job seekers or refers candidates to employers, please contact us about our employment contact list to receive the most current information about station vacancies. For more information or to be added to the list, please contact Manhattan Broadcasting Company at 785-776-1350 or visit us at 2414 Casement Road in Manhattan, Kansas, or email frontdesk@1350kman.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid.
All right, Tim Everson, as we are 145 days away from K-State football in Ireland against Iowa State, we got spring football starting this week. So you transition us into the next phase of covering K-State athletics for this academic year. What are your storylines for K-State spring football 2025?
Yeah, I got 3 of them. And honestly, there's quite a few. This is going to be an interesting group, and with as big of a transfer class as they had, there's a lot of unknowns that we got to figure out. But I will start on the staffing end of things. K-State has a new offensive coordinator for the second year in a row. Connor Riley left to be the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. Replacing him is associate head coach and quarterbacks coach Matt Wells. That's who most thought would take over. What differences will that bring? We'll find out as we get a little closer. Obviously, when Wells was running things at Tech and Utah State, it was more of an air raid style of offense. How will that affect Avery Johnson going into his junior year? That's a great question. It's not just Wells, though. Tight ends coach Brian Lepak is taking over the offensive line. He's the first shakeup in the offensive line coaching since Kleiman got here. It was Connor Riley since 2019. How will that affect things? There's kind of a good mix of incoming and former incoming transfers, and then guys returning on that offensive line. How will that kind of mesh together? And then last but not least on the staffing end, Luke Wells, Matt Wells' brother, is coming in to take over tight ends. It's a very talented group of tight ends, obviously even more so with an addition that won't get here until the summer in Lincoln Cure. But they had the record in the nation for most touchdowns thrown to a tight end, 13 total last season. How will Luke Wells build on that? How will things change a little bit with him in charge compared to Brian Lepak? Obviously, he's still there, so it's probably not going to be too big of a shakeup, but it's something to keep our eye on. Second thing that I want to point out is wide receiver. Every year it seems like K-State fans are hoping and praying that this is the year that wide receiver clicks. Last year wasn't bad, even though it was inconsistent at times. It wasn't terrible. There were a lot of spots that they had to replace, though, last season. They lost Jaden Jackson, Ty Bowman, Dante Cephas. They all graduated, and Keegan Johnson and Trey Spivey hit the portal. They went out and got 3 experienced and talented receivers, and Jaron Bradley from Tech and Boston College, Caleb Medford from TCU in New Mexico, and Jaron Tibbs from Purdue. And then there's just a bunch, in addition to Sterling Lockett and Andre Davis, there is a bunch of intriguing freshmen and redshirt freshmen that are coming in. Last but not least, secondary. Cornerback and safety both lost some key players from last year. I would look at Arizona's safety. Gunnar Maldonado is going to be a big piece for this secondary. And then at cornerback, K-State lost its 2 best corners, and so there's going to be a lot of replacement that needs to be done there, including Jaden Rowe from Oklahoma and Marion Fortenberry from South Alabama.
All right, well, we're going to hear from Chris Kleiman on Wednesday's show. I'm traveling tomorrow, so Troy will be hosting you for a full show tomorrow. We got to head out. For the boys, I'm Mitch from Spokane. Thank you for listening to Wildcat Insider.
To the locker room than anyone else. This is Wildcat Insider. Wildcat Insider, an exclusive presentation of the flagship station of the K-State Sports Network. News Radio 1350, KMAN.
Now at Menards, save big money on everything for your next project. For over 65 years, Menards has been the destination for post-frame buildings. Whether it's for protecting equipment or you just need a place to keep your toys, Menards has a post-frame building for you. Get a free estimate fast, in-store or on Menards.com. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Join
Find the original influencers, influencing for over 60 years, and discover how you can turn your passion for media and sales into a rewarding career. Manhattan Broadcasting is looking for creative, hardworking individuals who have a passion for helping businesses grow through traditional and digital marketing platforms. Qualified candidates should be creative, great at building relationships, and most of all, success-driven. Apply now at the top-rated media company, Manhattan Broadcasting. Send your resume to jobs@manhattanbroadcasting.com. Our client success is your success.